about the Hall of Fame. As far as if they're using the excuse of the Spygate, before they had the electronic communication between the sideline and the players, everybody was trying to steal signals. A lot of people would not admit to it, but every team had an individual trying to get the signals or doing one thing or another. And then one of the scouts for the Kansas City Chiefs talked to us. They said, hey, we've got the system. Howard Mudd is the best at doing it. They had a camera and they would film the opponent's signal caller and match it up with the film, and then they would get their signals. And we noticed, we watched the Kansas City huddle, the offensive guard would look to the sideline and Howard would go ahead and give them a signal, whether or not it was, man coverage or zone coverage, et cetera, et cetera. Now, Howard Mudd left Kansas City. He left and actually went to work for Bill Polian and Tony Dungy. Now, I'm not accusing them of doing it, but there were a lot of teams doing it back then before they put the electronic communication from sideline to the quarterback and the linebackers. And so if they're using that excuse to not put Bill Belichick in the Hall of Fame, it is absolutely ridiculous.
Okay, I appreciate you coming out and saying that.
Oh, and by the way, we tried doing it, and we couldn't get a whole lot out of it. We weren't real good at it, so we stopped doing it.
We're wasting so much space and energy on these films that we can't. Does anybody know what this means? No. Okay.
Well, the thing about it, it happened so late. You only had, a few seconds to get the signal in. Like I said, we really weren't very good at it, and we were spending more time on it than we needed, so we said to hell with it, we stopped doing it.
But I appreciate you coming out and saying, hey, this is much more common than we would believe, because I feel like I've been an NFL fan my entire life, growing up in Pittsburgh, playing for the Colts, and now talk about it every single day. I don't think until I saw your tweet really how prevalent it was, and I knew Coach Howard Mudd, rest in peace. So I think I appreciate you saying that, being transparent about it, but also explaining from a point of hey, if that is going to be the reason why you hold this guy out, you might need to look into some other people that are potentially in here. What is the precedent you think going forward here, Coach? Because you said this diminishes all this with how it is. Does this change going forward? What are your thoughts on the Hall of Fame as a whole? Because there is a lot of people saying the Hall of Fame's like fraud now, which is kind of what you were scared of happening as a Hall of Famer yourself, and us all understanding what it is.
When I talked to 2 or 3 of the voters today, of course, every voter is going to say, I voted for him, which is bullshit. A bunch of them are lying. The thing about it, I guess the process, they had 5 candidates and they could vote for 3. And I think some of the voters probably say, well, it's a slam dunk. Bill Belichick's going to get in with all of his accolades, 8 Super Bowls, 6 of the head coach, on and on and on. And so they assumed, that he was going to get in. So they voted for one of the candidates that they liked. And then it fell through the cracks that he didn't get in. But it's a crying shame, because one thing, I know Bill personally, and no one knows the history of the NFL more than Bill Belichick. No one loves the NFL more than Bill Belichick. And it just pissed me off that it wasn't a slam dunk, him going into the Hall of Fame. He'll go in next year, granted. And when everybody says, well, hey, he's got Tom Brady. Well, very few Hall of Fame coaches, go in without a great quarterback. I had Troy Aikman. So to use that, well, it's Tom Brady. Hey, Tom Brady needed Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick needed Tom Brady.
Yeah, I think those are all very valid points. And for him going in next year, we're just going to act like it's his first ballot next year, Jimmy? You think we should all just agree to do that whenever we talk about it? First ballot Hall of Famer here, Bill Belichick, as we move forward.
It ought to be. I saw him at the national championship game, Miami and Indiana. By the way, congratulations to Indiana, and Miami had a great year as well. And Bill, I walked away and I was talking to him and he said, hey, I hope to see you in the Hall this year. And, I thought it was going to be an automatic, so I chartered a jet. I was going to go up there. To hell with it, I'm not going this year.
Jimmy! Yep. This can't be what this becomes. We need to stop this. We need to correct this. Okay, we can't have Jimmy Johnson not going to the Hall of Fame. Jimmy, you are football, brother. You are just a part of ball. College player, national champion at Arkansas. Coach, national champion at we're doing the entire thing. 2-time for America's team. You are a part of ball, okay? So we need to make sure that you are not getting turned off by this entire thing. We got to make sure we fix this, Jimmy. We got to fix this thing. We got to make it right somehow.
Man, I love football. Now that I've retired from Fox, I've got 4 TVs set up. I've got 12 hours on Saturday, 12 hours on Sunday. No one comes in the room. I only leave the room to get a little bit of food. I love football, and I appreciate, greatness. And that's what you had with Bill Belichick, greatness. I'm a coach, and if some of the players don't get in, it doesn't bother me that much if a player doesn't get in. But for a great football coach not to get in first ballot, that was wrong.
All right, well, hopefully they make it up to you. AJ has a question.
Coach, have you and any of your fellow Hall of Famers, have you spoken to anybody, you reached out to anybody at the Hall of Fame and tried to, I don't know, kind of wrap your head around this whole situation?
I've talked to a few people. In fact, Troy and I texted back and forth a little bit, and everybody is just shocked that Bill didn't go in first ballot. I haven't talked to a single individual that's even on the borderline. Every one of them saying they're shocked that he didn't go in. Look at all the accolades. Look at what he did. That's the reason why someone goes into the Hall of Fame. And I just don't understand it.
All those things that you're looking there are earned, on the field. The accolade to get into the Hall is something that other people are going to judge upon. Obviously, there's some personal biases or lapses in the process that they miss it. Hopefully, they're able to get it right, because just like Coach Jimmy Johnson, living legend, is saying, there's a lot of people saying, well, to hell with the Hall of Fame as a whole if Bill Belichick is not considered a Hall of Famer. And we can't have that. We got to preserve these things. Pro Bowl has to remain. The Hall of Fame we needed something, Jimmy. We lost this Pro Bowl. Pro Bowl's gone forever, Jimmy.
Pat, I know that, Bill at times, he wasn't the most friendly guy to some of the media. And so maybe some of them voted against him, because they didn't get an interview of him. I don't know. Maybe there's a little tension between Bob Kraft and Bill, and maybe there was some lobbying there. I don't know the reason for it. I don't need to know the reason for it. But it should not have happened.
Yeah, Pro Football Hall of Fame feels like it. Coach, can we pivot to a couple other football questions now that we have one of the greatest minds in the history of ball on?
What you got there?
Yeah, you got it. D-Bud has a question for you about ball, boss.
Hell yeah, Coach. Thank you, first of all, for your service. Growing up in South Florida as a Miami Dolphins fan, Miami Hurricanes fan, thank you. We got a new hiring cycle now. 8 new coaches hired, 4 first-time head coaches, 4 coaches now that have already been on the job. What are you doing day one on the job, whether it's press conference, reaching out to teams, putting your staff together? What are you doing day one? And then kind of a second part of how the hell do you win in Miami as a head coach in this environment?
Well, I think Miami's got their work cut out for them because of the salary cap and their quarterback situation. I think for every new coach, well, first of all, it's ridiculous that we've got 10 openings. There's not 10 bad coaches in the league. But anyway, for a new coach going in, the number one thing, he's got to get his players all on the same page. Just set the stage. Here's what you can expect from me. This is what I expect from you. I think a lot of these owners are saying, hey, I've got to change the head coach because our fans are upset and I can't lose our fans. That has a lot to do with it. But the other thing is hiring the right staff. I was fortunate. Every place I ever was, the University of Miami, or whether or not it be Dallas Cowboys or Miami Dolphins, I had some outstanding assistant coaches. And that's the reason I went in the Hall of Fame. I had great players and I had great assistant coaches. But they've got to put together the right staff. And that's very difficult to do nowadays because coaches are under contract. You can't talk to certain ones. But putting together that staff and getting your players on the right page, that's the first order of business.
Good luck to all these parties who have to win within the next 12 months, or their asses are going to be on the hot seat.
Well, good luck.
Yeah. Jacksonville Jaguars made the playoffs. Chicago Bears went on a run. Mike Vrabel first year, they had 4 wins last year. You're expected to do the exact same, whether the situation's similar or not. It's a crazy